Huitzilopochtli is a name.
Dude, this video sucks. What do you mean? I made it just how I wanted to make it. No one is going to watch this series if you make it like this. You need it to be less this. No way. People love this video. Look at the view count. You're being delusional, man. Have you watched your own video? You have a 16-minute segment where you yap about the shortest story in the list. Okay, but like, that's insightful. Insightful isn't the problem. You read a poem that's the same length as the story you're discussing in its fucking entirety. You can't keep doing this kind of stupid bullshit and expect to get something out of it. I'm done letting you make whatever you want. There's gotta be some sort of quality control, okay? Okay, but like, at least the persona joke was funny. Hey, what's up? Back at it again on episode 2. Welcome back. If you haven't seen episode 1, go ahead and check it out. There's some pretty radical books in there I talk about. Good stuff. Speaking of the previous video, let's take a look at some of the feedback I received on it. So, we made a couple of upgrades between our previous video and our current one. Firstly, new studio. This way, you don't have to see a cropped crow on the bottom right of your video doing little to fuck all. And we also have the projector over there for anything important I want to display. The background is no longer blurry TF2 footage, so no more Subway Surfers and no more $19 Fortnite cards. There's also... Ow! God! Oh my god! My arm! Extra character stills. The racism counter, but larger. Text boxes. Really? Who the fuck put this last video together? In any case, the video format is still the same. We have the quick summary, my personal thoughts, lit anal, and of course, the ranking. Here's the image of the current tier list after episode 1. Hopefully, all of these upgrades make the video less painful to watch and more cohesive overall. Without further ado, let's begin. Actually, let me introduce myself first. This is Editor Me. I will occasionally be popping in to talk/shout angrily at past me for missing something or sounding like an absolute madman. You'll both see and hear me, but past me won't, for obvious reasons. Enjoy the video. I'll see you in a bit.
Welcome to my PowerPoint chatter who hates Balatro. This is a special presentation that I'd like to call, How I Plan to Kill You.
Welcome to... What the fuck? What is this?
I am Archimedes!
Hand drawn?
I toiled in God's domain!
Out of money?
I don't think it's anything to worry.
Why aren't we just using Photoshop? The Terrible Old Man. This story is about 3 guys. Angelo Ricci, Joe Snaznik,
Zanuck.
and Manuel Silva, and their plan to rob an old sailor living next to the sea of all of his valuables. This old sailor is our titular Terrible Old Man. The backstory of said old man was that he used to be a captain of a clipper ship for the East India Company. You know, the one that did the spice trade, along with other things. The strange thing is, we have absolutely no idea how old he is. The clipper ships of the East India Company were dissolved in 1874, but it was established in the 1600s. So, he's either reasonably aged or several centuries old. No one knows his real name, and no one wants to get near his house. It's surrounded by stone idols that, quote, resemble the idols in some obscure Eastern temple. I'm going to assume he means Buddhist statues that are common in China or India, since, according to Lovecraft, those are the only 2 countries that exist in the Asian continent. It said so right here on my map. Now wait a minute. The stone statues are not the only reason that most of the townsfolk stay away from Grandpa. Some of the youth who venture onto his property close enough to his home mentioned that on the ground floor there's a window showing off a collection of bottles sitting on a table. Inside of each of these bottles is a piece of lead suspended from a string. Hey, wait a minute. Who drew this? That's not how the bottles are described at all.
You are stupid!
It was me.
My skill is wasted on this team.
I'm the illiterate one.
You have 30 seconds to live.
Back to the bottles. The old man keeps talking to them like they're his buddies and gives them weird-ass names. Oh dear God. It's the fucking soldier from Team Defending the Fortress twice, the referencing the fucking cardboard cutout. Okay. Sorry. Brain rot over. Unlike Jane Doe, this behavior is not the result of rampant lead poisoning. Isn't it weird the lead is mentioned in both? Anyway, the lead pieces vibrate as if responding to the old man's conversation. I'm gonna assume he steals souls. He's a soul stealer.
Was that the bite of 80?
Read the rest to find out what happens when the robbers enact their plan. Alright, analysis time. So, first of all, we're not going to talk about how the people who are attempting to rob the old man are all people with non-English names. You can make the funny joke now. Thanks. We're instead going to talk about the bottles, specifically, because there's a pun there. Did you see it? I'll give you a hint. The old man was a captain of a clipper ship. What do captains and people in charge usually do? Time's up. They lead people. Yeah, the bottles themselves have a message, like a message in a bottle. The lead pieces on a string that vibrate in response to crewmate names. The crew were led on a string to their ultimate fate, trapped in that lead. Hi, it's me again. Funny pun aside, there's something that Chromie forgets to mention, and that is the setting of our beloved story. Kingsport. Yeah, a Kingsport in New England, invaded by foreigners. Put 2 and 3 together and make 5. Thanks. Also, I think it's kind of stupid that the sailor would literally live on a street called Water Street. It's like if I lived on a street called Air Boulevard or Tree Court. Also, he doesn't explain how that ties into the rest of the idea. The old man has committed several atrocities in his pursuit for wealth and power, and essentially the 3 men are heading towards their doom. In other words, the evildoers are outmatched by an evil greater than them. In any case, I think the story itself wasn't too bad. I didn't feel particularly moved or gripped by it, but I still enjoyed it. High B tier.
Hi, it's Tim and Kim and Jim. Here's a story that is rather grim. What's to do for a party of 3?
What's that, Tim?
Is to climb a tree.
We're keeping the shitty backgrounds, huh? Guess this is my life now. I love Greece. Greece is my favorite country. My favorite part about Greece is the wonderful culture and food and heritage and... No. It's the men. The fucking hotties sculpted by Hephaestus himself. To be very clear, that was a joke. I'm going to clarify that wasn't a joke. Shut up. You're not supposed to hear what I'm saying. It breaks continuity. Anyway, back to the story. The story begins with Fata viam invenient. The fates will find a way. Allegedly. We're set on the slope of Mount Manalus, specifically in a village called Arcadia. We're in an olive grove next to the ruins of a villa and a mausoleum with an unnaturally large olive tree growing out of it. This stupid ass tree is shaped like a fucking ragdoll. That is to say, is shaped like a person, but stretchy and weird. Fucking the server blight reference. A beekeeper who lives in the area begins to tell you a story about what happened. Two sculptors, Kalos and Musides, used to live on the mountain. Musides was outgoing and Kalos was his adopted introvert. Kalos liked to chill in his mangrove of olives. That joke was ass. We don't even know if they're gay. One day, the tyrant of Syracuse, not the university, decides to get them both to create for him a statue of the goddess Tyche. This one's a collab, a crossover, if you will. These two were regarded as the most talented sculptors of the area, so a collab was seen as legendary. So naturally, they obliged. They worked on it day and night and allowed no one besides themselves to see the statue until the unveiling. After a while, Musides looks more and more tired and fucked up, and we find out that Kalos is sick. Musides tells all of his servants to fuck off and let him take care of Kalos, which everyone does because they're like definitely roommates and not having sex all the time. Lovecraft's not a historian. You can't just say they're gay because they have a brotherly bond, dude. Kalos, during his slowly declining health, asks Musides to leave him outside in the night amongst the olive trees, which Musides agrees to. He observes Kalos speaking among the trees like he's having an actual full-blown conversation. Eventually, one night in the Olive Garden, Kalos dies, with his last wish being to be buried with an olive branch in his tomb. Musides creates this magnificent tomb and buries the branch with Kalos as requested. Maybe they were gay and I missed that while I was reading. The rest of the story details what happens with the statue and Musides. Feel free to read that if you're feeling feisty. It's time for some lit anal. Lisses. So, Mount Manalis is mentioned as being a chosen haunt of the Greek god Pan, the satyr guy who likes to go crazy with nature. So it makes sense to say that Kalos is speaking to Pan during his nights out in those woods. Pan is also the root of the word panic, so we can say that the fear and chaos that happens during the climax of the story is his doing. The statue of Tyche is also important, as she embodies fate. Specifically, she sends positive messages to people regarding external events outside their control. Like a debilitating illness? It's funny, it's like it's referencing Lovecraft's future intestinal cancer. Maybe he always knew he was destined to die. Or maybe it's Musides attempting to take matters into his own hands and get all the credit for himself building the statue of Tyche by poisoning Kalos slowly. In this case, it's external events outside of Kalos' control. The statue being as large as it is too, being for a tyrant in a far-off land, could be another reference of Ozymandias. I promise not to read the poem again, you get the point. Also, interesting point to make about the olive tree. The tomb is made of Pentelic marble from Mount Pentelicus. On the summit of this mountain, we have a sanctuary to Athena. Who is sometimes associated with justice. Kalos' death/murder being avenged by the olive tree and chaos could be Pan and Athena teaming up to deliver justice to Musides. The olive branch could also be seen as a symbol of peace, probably referring to Kalos harboring no hard feelings for Musides about what he's done. But then again, it could just be him saying that he wants peace after his death. If I'm being honest, I don't like this one as much as his other non-horror stories. I wish there was something more than just chaos, I guess, at the end. Left me feeling underwhelmed. Putting it in C tier, under Juan.
Let's get one thing straight. You are a cat. I am a cat. Every one of these maggots are a kitty cat.
Wait. This place is familiar. What happened to drawing every background? My wrist hurt. Moving on. In Ulthar, you're not allowed to kill cats. There used to be a peasant farmer and his wife that lived in a wretched old house that enjoyed killing cats. I know, fucked up people. These psychopaths enjoyed killing them for some reason, and all the people who owned cats in the area were terrified of this murder couple, as their psychopathy seemed to bleed into their everyday life whenever the village people interacted with them. So they hid their cats and hoped they wouldn't wander over towards their home. One day, a caravan arrives in the village, foreigners from a foreign land. That is heavily implied to be Egyptian because they're dark-skinned, do prayers, and painted the sides of their wagons with figures of human bodies and the heads of animals. Like, you know, every Egyptian god. 500 likes on this video and I'll tier list every single Egyptian god. And my suffering. The leader of the caravan wore a headdress of 2 horns with a disc situated in between. There's a small kid in the caravan named Menes, who owns a small black kitten. I'd also like to point out this specific quote: "When one is very young, one can find great relief in the lively antics of a black kitten." Speaking from experience, I see. So, what's the cat's name again? Anyway, read the rest to find out what happens. You can guess what happens next, right? Paralysis time. In the beginning of the story, we're given a couple of things to cement the fact that we're talking about Egyptian deities. For example, the soul of antique Aegyptus, a former king of ancient Egypt, is mentioned in the first paragraph to describe the legendary nature of cats. Also, the mentions of Meroe and Ophir, which are wealthy and powerful cities, Ophir being a wealthy port city that's mentioned in the Bible, and Meroe being the capital of the kingdom of Kush. Not that Kush. Essentially, Lovecraft is drooling all over ancient Egypt while obsessing over cats. Interestingly, if we look at the story of Moses involving Meroe, there's actually an interesting parallel between that story and cats. Oh God, what the f***? Meroe was besieged and taken over by Moses leading an Egyptian army. A flock of ibis were released around the kingdom, killing and eating the deadly serpents that surround its walls, similar to how the cats act in the final hearsay climax of the story. Also, if we're gonna try and name the Egyptian gods being referenced, I think the most obvious one is Hathor, as that's the only one visually that is associated with a disc flanked by horns. She also sometimes takes the form of a lioness, a big cat, so she probably has a soft spot for cats. More often than not, she's depicted as a cow, but that's besides the point. Her motherly persona, derived from the cow itself, could shine through since Menes is a lone child who only had his cat as company. Makes sense, right?
Yeah, that seems about right.
This story has room for improvement. I don't hate it per se, it just feels a bit one-dimensional. These haven't been great, but I like it better than the tree, so I'll give it a C tier.
Captain!
Yeah?
No!
Are we at the bottom of the ocean? Oh, no. This particular short story is a manuscript written by one Karl Heinrich Graf von Alberg Elreinstein. No, I am not pronouncing that correctly, nor am I going to try. He's a lieutenant commander of the Imperial German Navy during World War I, and he's writing this to document the happenings as the submarine lies disabled at the bottom of the ocean. Specifically, he's in the middle of the Atlantic. That's about it, really. Karl details his journey to the bottom of the ocean floor, beginning his story where his submarine torpedoes a British freighter named Victory, ironic name, and sank their lifeboats. They find a dead body clinging to the outside railing a few hours later after they resurface. Someone who is, quote, young, rather dark, and very handsome, probably an Italian or Greek. This is going to be relevant. pay attention to this, because Crow didn't. After some racial hatred against the English, they throw the body overboard, but not before they take an ivory carving of a young man's head crowned with laurel that was discovered on the body. Cleanse, the lieutenant and fellow officer of the ship, takes it for himself. I would continue describing the rest of the story, but in my honest opinion, I think this is one where you should just experience it yourself. Just skip all the parts where he starts talking about which type of Jermyn is the superior Jermyn. It doesn't add to the story. It's honestly very hard to ignore. There is a reason that I love this story, but absolutely cannot put it above A tier. Alright, just go read the story. The rest of the analysis here will involve talking about some of the events of the story, which I highly recommend you read ahead of time to avoid spoilers. If you want to skip said spoilers, jump to this time. Otherwise, you get to see why this story is absolutely batshit insane. Besides the obvious metaphor of the slow descent of the submarine being a slow descent into madness, there's something about this story that is familiar to those who are well versed in the classics. Greek classics, if you will. That's fucking right. We're back in fucking ancient Greece. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here anymore. Let me go. Let me go.
I revived my thoughts of euthanasia.
Anyway, let's talk about Dionysus. Specifically, the stories involving him and pirates. Tyranian pirates spotted him on a beach and kidnapped him, planning to sell him into slavery. Dionysus wasn't a big fan of this, summoned a bunch of vines and animals onto the ship, and forced the ship's crew to jump into the water, turning them into dolphins, which are mentioned in the temple, specifically as Delphinus Delphus. These dolphins increase in numbers as the ship's crew slowly go missing as they sink further into the depths. It's a direct parallel. Also, the fact that the madness is spreading on the ship after, the guy who's associated with Madness's idol is brought onto the vessel. Remember the ivory carving with the laurel on its head? The same laurel that's commonly depicted with Dionysus. I'd also like to point out that the dead sailor who was on the submarine when it resurfaced was thought to be either Greek or Italian/Roman. It's supposed to be Dionysus. He wasn't even subtle with it this time. Also, the scientific name of the dolphin is relevant, since the sunken temple has an altar flame, similar to the flames and fumes inside the temple where the Oracle of Delphi hotboxed. You get it now? Even the fucking names of the ships mentioned are relevant. You got Victory, otherwise known as Nike, in Greek mythos, and you have the Dacia, a reference to Dacians mentioned in ancient Greek literature, specifically by Herodotus and Thucydides, both of whom discuss the accounts of the Peloponnesian War. What time are we in? The Great War, aka World War I. It's all connected. It's all connected. Hi, sorry about that. Crow has been put away for a little bit, but he'll be back for the next one. Oh shit! It's these two. Sorry about the coming mental breakdown.
War, segregation, hatred. Is that what you've done with your free will, boy? Don't you lecture me with your $30 haircut.
I recognize this spot. This is the Gmod map, GM Fork. Why are we here? Is that? Oh my god. Oh, it's on fire. Oh no. Oh god. Oh. So Arthur Jermyn set himself on fire after seeing something in a box, which is a really fun premise, really fun. But this story has some connotations that I don't particularly enjoy. Arthur's however many great grandfathers was one of the earliest European explorers of the Congo region, and he told tales of a prehistoric white civilization in the middle of the jungle. Do you understand why I don't like where this is headed? Essentially, the thing is that the Germans never looked quite right, with the deformities starting after Wade Jermyn published his book on the white civilization. He took a Portuguese wife and kept her secluded from everyone besides one singular Ghanaian woman who was in charge of their child. After his wife's death, Wade took care of his son. Listen, the whole story is about the truth behind the white civilization in the middle of the Congolese jungle and its ties to the family lineage of the Germans. I feel uncomfortable reading it, and it doesn't do much in itself to justify what it's trying to do. The premise is that it's a cursed bloodline. The fact that the curse comes from interbreeding is not what I want to read. Analysis? I have to analyze this? Do I have to? Can I skip it? Okay, fine. There are some tribes mentioned here, which are not real tribes. The Mbangu tribe may be a reference to the Bangu Bangu tribe, but even that's a bit of a stretch and also not relevant. This piece is it's just about race mixing and the absolute horror that apparently Helicopter feels about finding out your family is descended from something that's not purely white, tainted white even. The Tomb does the premise of a cursed bloodline so much better, and it's done even more excellently in The Shadow over Innsmouth. Not to spoiler The Shadow, but if we're going to make a little bit of psychological analysis about what's happening in Philip's brain here, this book says that Lovecraft thinks that finding out your mixed race is bad enough to end your own existence and the rest of your bloodline. But he slowly comes around in Innsmouth to say that accepting the evil of impurity isn't the worst thing in the world. God, I hate this one. It's a D tier only because the original premise was slightly interesting. If you're reading this book, the book itself is not necessarily badly written. There is a lot of interesting plot points. There's a lot of interesting, family members that are mentioned in the story. It's just the way Lovecraft handles this topic is, it's... Let's just move on to the next one. Oh, fucking come on!
This is America, maggot!
Oh, sorry. Let's see,
32.8084 God blessed American yards off the ground.
Amen.
Yeah, this is what I expected. Look, in the shortest way possible, this is a retelling of American history by a person who believes that immigrants came here to ruin the patriotic nature that the founding fathers and Englishmen had on the other side of the world. I'm skipping to the analysis because I don't particularly care for this story. So, the people who created the street coming from the Blessed Isles across the sea can refer to one of two things: Great Britain and the Englishmen who came to New England to settle in America, Or the Fortunate Isles, an isle of paradise inhabited by Greek heroes, mainly thought of as a utopia. Since patriotism is the only thing I can really get out of this, I'm going to assume this reference was by choice, as whenever the inhabitants go off to war or military exercises, the street itself feels a sense of joy and pride. Because the street goes apeshit when it finds out about the terrorist plots to take over the country, we can say that the story is a precursor to the military-industrial complex. Crush all resistance, patriotism, rah! What the fuck is that? I don't know, man. I don't want to look into it any further. I just want to move on to the next one. The next ones are so much better. Okay, let's give the guy a break. I think he might be losing his sanity. This one was an F tier, by the way, if you couldn't tell from how broken he is.
Change the world! My final master! Goodbye!
Is this heaven? Have I died and gone to heaven? Oh no, this is fucking LA! This story is about a guy named Corinus? Cunt. His real name isn't Corinus, but that's what his name is in his dreams. And we're going to stay in his dreams for the entire story, so that's his name. He's the last of his family in London, sorry for his loss, but he doesn't care about that at all. He's a regular of r/lucid dreaming, and he takes his hobby very seriously. So seriously, in fact, that he keeps taking drugs to keep himself asleep so he can explore the dream world longer. The story can be best described as a writer given a bunch of drugs and being told to go write what he saw. Okay, now that we got the entire premise out of the way, the story is a metaphor for the afterlife. Yes, that's the entire summary. I feel it detracts from the story if I describe the landscape of the Valley of Ulthar or the ancient and beautiful city of Celephaïs. Celephaïs? The I is dotted like in naive. So it's Celephaïs. Celephaïs. So I'm going to let you read that section for yourself. So why is this a metaphor for the afterlife and not just a really long trip? The further and longer he falls asleep, the more deep he manages to descend into the valley itself until one day he manages to make it to the city and stays there permanently. As in, permanent sleep. Interesting side note, Lovecraft is known for saying that he wishes for oblivion in the afterlife rather than an afterlife at all. Strange, ain't it? Anyway, a couple of details I want to bring attention to. Number 1, ginkgo trees. Why is there a tree so important to Asian cultures flourishing in this dreamscape that we assume to be the afterlife? That's because there are a whole number of species of ginkgo trees that have died out in the past, and most ginkgo trees even now don't grow in the wild.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck?
Mostly being cultivated by Buddhist monks in Japan and China. The fact that ginkgo trees here grow freely on the mountainsides tells you they're flourishing in a world away from the real world. And number 2, no, I can't. Please, no more Greek references. I'm done. All right. Just calm the fuck down, okay? Jesus. Galleys are mentioned here, transferring Corinus to the wonderful world of Celephaïs, like the ferry that takes the dead souls across the river Styx. And the Greek underworld reference is also not a light one, as Celephaïs is guarded by bronze gates with its floors paved of onyx. To be completely fair, if I wanted to read someone talk about tripping on drugs, I'd probably go on either Tumblr or Reddit and probably read the same thing. I mean, I don't hate it though, so I'll put it in C tier.
You see those fuckers over there? You see them? Yeah. They have done absolutely nothing wrong, but they're
magenta.
I've always hated the color
magenta.
You know why?
Why?
No reason.
Y'all hear about the color out of space? This is its lesser-known cousin, the Wavelengths from Beyond. Our narrator is going to the home of one Crawford Tillinghast, a scientist that attempts to create a machine that allows humans to see into wavelengths that humans don't have sensory organs for. Crawford began his experiment a couple of weeks ago, and now we arrive at his home to see that he's completely emaciated. All of the lights in his home are off, and no one seems to be home except him. This is odd because Crawford used to have a bunch of servants running around everywhere. Tillinghast answers his door with a candle, telling our narrator to not turn any lights on for reasons he reveals later, and they walk towards our mystery machine on the top floor. When they arrive, our narrator notes that the machine is emitting a purple/violet sort of glow. The madness unfolds when the machine is turned on. That's right, the glow is not made by the machine being on, it's just glowing. This one is such a fun read. You become more and more nervous as you read through, being in the narrator's shoes. The escalation of the horror as we continue on through the story is incredible, and certainly the best piece in this section of 10. This is going into S tier, but let's talk about some details here that are a little out there. Specifically, the pineal gland is mentioned as the organ that we can use to see into the UV spectrum. Originally, I looked at this and was like, oh, Lovecraft definitely picked this gland in particular because it produces melatonin, so it has a thing to do with dreaming and stuff. No, that's not why Lovecraft picked this. It's for a much more obvious reason. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, the pineal gland was described as, drumroll please, the pineal eye, or the parietal eye. The reason it's referred in this way was because in some reptiles, the pineal gland is a light-sensing organ, and people also said it looks kind of eyeballish. For the longest time, we also believed this organ to be vestigial, like the appendix. It's something that we don't use anymore due to its purpose being obsolete. A usage that humans do not have anymore? Could it be something that humans have outgrown to protect themselves? Fun fact, the appendix was found to have some uses in the human body recently. It serves as a reservoir for good gut bacteria. Both of these vestigial organs have uses that only recently revealed themselves to us. Another fun fact, René Descartes believed that the pineal gland was where the soul was located. So yeah, the pineal gland. The spiritual center and humanity's third eye, opening to see horrors floating beyond our comprehension. Just like those fucking birds outside. Here's an interview I had with a duck, the problem child of last episode.
That's weird. This is not how they usually act, by the way.
Why is this video in here? This doesn't need to be in here.
Who's Jay chilling?
You know what? Let's just move on with the next one.
If you're gonna play like that, you better have a good melee to finish the job. Because if that guy had melee after he railed me like that from behind, after he shot on my back, after he came from behind.
I hope I'm pronouncing this right. So, Nyarlathotep is a guy. Here's a quote from him to start us off. Nyarlathotep, the crawling chaos. I am the last. I will tell the audient void. So the world is in complete chaos and every living thing is afraid of some sort of physical danger/apocalypse to begin. The seasons are changing, the world is either super hot or bone-chillingly cold. As our narrator puts it, the universe seemed to have changed hands to someone much less benevolent. Nyarlathotep, our titular character, comes from Egypt. He looks like a pharaoh, but no one knows who he really is. He talks a lot of sciences and showed off his power to people who would listen. He would enter civilizations and buy glass and metal pieces and trinkets to combine them into, quote, instruments yet stranger.
Chicken jockey!
Another quirky thing about Nyarlathotep is that wherever he goes, there were no places to rest due to the constant screaming in the night caused by night terrors. Our unknown narrator is recommended by a friend to go see him, telling him that he will see terrible things on a screen in a dark room, prophesizing the end of days. So he does. You can read the rest to see what happens. Let's get a picture of Nyarlathotep in fiction. What does this guy look like anyway? What? Why is there so many tentacles? I mean, it's not like I'm complaining. So the fun thing about depictions of Nyarlathotep is that he's technically a creature of many forms, so he can take whatever form he likes. In the case of the popular Call of Cthulhu RPG, the campaign Masks of Nyarlathotep depict him in a more tentacly manner. The reason this is relevant is because this is where most popular depictions get their inspiration from, including Shin Megami Tensei Persona. I'm going to focus on the descriptions that our narrator uses for his prophetic end of human civilization, specifically on the colors used in that description. Firstly, yellow evil faces. He's not trying to be racist here. Yes, very surprising, I know. Yellow is a color associated with a ton of negative connotations and is quite usually an unpopular color in the Western world where Lovecraft resides. You would associate yellow with cowardice, betrayal, and deception, which is why yellow is being used in this context. In the Eastern world, you would relate yellow with more royalty and other positive connotations, but unfortunately that's not the person we're dealing with here. Also, the world battling against blackness. Black is usually a color associated with evil in literature. Wait. Anyway, colors of things have a lot of meaning. They're used in cinema all the time to evoke a certain feeling in the audience, and books are no different. My favorite part is that he uses a screen to depict the end of civilization. It's a declaration of war against TikTok and short-form content. I mean, I have to agree with Crow on this one. Brain rot is the end of civilized society. I enjoyed this one. The ending is a bit trippy and needs a couple of rereads, but otherwise, who wouldn't want to see the end of civilization? Low A tier.
Only stupid people try the medicine drug. You are stupid. I tried the stupid drug. You are a black man. This vexes me.
This book starts off by asking our intrepid readers what our favorite horrific travel destination is. What setting would you expect to see in a movie? Leave a comment down below. According to our narrator, the most horrific place in the world is not France, but instead abandoned farmhouses in the backcountry of New England. I mean, to be fair, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre did happen in a backcountry farmhouse, but that was horrific for different reasons. Bonk! Oh, I almost forgot. There's a hard R slur in this story. You know which one. Alright, I gave you fair warning. We're traveling the Miskatonic Valley with our narrator, looking for genealogical data. He decides to take a deserted road, thinking it's a shortcut to Arkham. Yes, that Arkham. Arkham Asylum is a direct reference to Lovecraft. Makes sense that the criminally insane are in there, yeah? Our narrator lands himself into one of these backcountry houses on a shortcut, as he's caught in the middle of a storm and needs to find shelter immediately. As he's getting drenched, he notices that the house doesn't seem completely abandoned, as the walkway seems to be somewhat maintained and the windows aren't broken in. He knocks, just to check if someone's in there, but the door is unlocked, so he lets himself in. He leaves his bike next to the door and walks into what appears to be a pre-Revolutionary War living room. He notices there's a bunch of old books on the shelves, but one draws his attention the most. An account of the Congo region by the explorer Pigafetta, written in Latin. For some reason, this book keeps opening to a detailed image of a butcher's shop of a white cannibal tribe. Afterwards, he hears footsteps coming from upstairs. Read the rest to find out what happens. Analysis-wise, we're going to focus on the 3 books besides the book with our picture: Pilgrim's Progress, Magnalia Christi Americana, and an 18th century Bible. The Pilgrim's Progress is a Christian allegory written in 1678, specifically Protestant in nature. Yeah, this one hates the Catholic Church. Interesting, right? Let's take a look at the second book, Magnalia Christi Americana. This book talks about the religious development of early Massachusetts by Puritan minister Cotton Mather. So, Puritans and Protestants in New England? Makes sense. Also interesting point. Pilgrims is printed by Massachusetts publisher and point guard for the Boston Celtics, Isaiah Thomas. Wait, that's the wrong person. So we have 3 books talking about Christianity, with them all belonging from centuries before our narrator's birth. I think the reason these books are here are as a piece of situational irony. A place originally created as a sanctuary for finding God becomes a godless and sinful place. The dark side of a coin with regards to the religious revelations of Massachusetts. I think this piece isn't too bad. It's certainly better than a lot of the ones we've read so far, so I'm going to rate this a high A tier. So that's part 2 done and dusted. Let's hope that part 3 comes out quicker and that I don't take too long in writing the script for the next one. Thanks for watching. Let me know what I should keep and what I should remove. Alright. See ya. Jeez. This took too long to edit. Like Crow said, thanks for watching. Leave your feedback in the comments. And let's make this series actually watchable, yeah? I'll see you in the next video. Peace.